tonight. As the presidential nominees make their midnight hour pitches ahead of Tuesday's election, voters in some states prepare to weigh in on abortion.
Amendment 3 is the most extreme abortion law that would be on the books in the entire nation. More extreme than California, more extreme than New York.
CBN News heads to Missouri to hear how a controversial ballot measure is shaping the 2024 race. And the economy and the election. The final jobs report before voters head to the polls. Plus,
we have to carefully use our faith as a guide to better behavior.
How the parting words of a bipartisan senator call on Americans of all faiths to come together for the sake of democracy. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Four days, millions of votes, and two candidates battling over who will sit in the Oval Office. Good evening in Washington. I'm Tara Mergener. Well, in the final weekend before Election Day, the two vice presidential candidates are zigzagging the country to make their closing arguments in order to win over undecided voters in battleground states. CBN Washington correspondent Michelle London is following their travel plans and joins us now.
Well, tonight, Tara, the focus is Wisconsin, where both candidates will hold competing rallies. Former President Trump made news earlier saying if he wins, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would oversee women's health. Vice President Harris responded quickly from Phoenix, saying this about Trump.
He simply does not respect the freedom of women or the intelligence of women to know what's in their own best interest and make decisions accordingly. But we trust women. We trust women.
Harris also doubled down on policy around reproductive rights and the economy, making the pitch to lower food and grocery prices, invest in building food supply chains, and financial support towards small businesses. Meanwhile, latest statistics on early voting show more than 62 million Americans have already cast their ballots. As for questions on election integrity, a new poll finds registered Republicans are more skeptical than Democrat voters when it comes to ballots being accurately counted. The AP NORC poll shows only about 24% of Republicans say they trust the nationwide vote count. Both campaigns are still pursuing women and Latino voters, with Trump addressing his plans, including immigration Thursday in Arizona.
We're going to get together and we're going to make America great again. We're going to fix our country. We're going to have strong borders and we're going to have fair elections, and hopefully we'll get a fair press eventually, because that's a very important element. You need a fair press.
And as for the economy, both Harris and Trump are pledging to bring down costs on day one. Tonight, the former president will be at the Milwaukee Bucks Arena, and less than 10 miles away, Harris will address supporters at the Wisconsin State Fair Expo. Tara.
All right, Michelle, in the home stretch. Thank you. Well, you can join us right here on Election Night, of course. We'll bring you minute-by-minute coverage with expert analysis all along the way. You can tune in to the CBN News Channel or our YouTube channel beginning at 8 p.m. Eastern, November 5th. Well, voters in 10 states will decide on initiatives seeking to enshrine abortion rights in their constitutions. In Missouri, pro-life advocates say the proposed amendment is the most extreme pro-abortion measure in the nation. CBN's Paul Petit has those details.
I am voting no on Amendment 3.
Linda McKnight of Webb City, Missouri, has her mind made up on the initiative, which, if passed, would lift the abortion ban here.
I was really surprised. I guess I should not have been, but I was very surprised and very disappointed that we're going down that road again.
Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, almost 24 states have banned or restricted abortion. Now, Missouri joins 9 other states where voters will decide whether to make a change.
It's important for us to realize here in the state of Missouri, Amendment 3 is the most extreme abortion law that would be on the books in the entire nation. More extreme than California, more extreme than New York or Illinois.
Extreme in that it goes far beyond abortion access.
And it also brings sex change operations for minors without their parents' knowledge or consent, because it removes all malpractice protections. It removes all zoning, all licensing, all taxation. It also removes mandatory reporting.
Imagine with sex trafficking at the levels that they are, now you give this unfettered capability of abortion without parental consent, because that's also in this, to where a little girl that may be pregnant does not have to get consent from a parent. Well, sex traffickers and rapists would absolutely love to have something like that in the state.
To know those details, however, means reading the fine print. Pro-life advocates have been going door to door to fully explain Amendment 3 to voters.
People honestly don't realize everything that's in it, and they appreciate the information.
People see a crafty slogan and they just think they're going to help somebody out that, was raped. And that's what they see, and that's what they latch onto. When no. This is above and beyond what, just some sort of exception.
Similar to abortion measures in other states, a yes vote here in Missouri would enshrine abortion in the state constitution and allow the procedure to be done up to birth.
Constitutional amendments can't be modified or changed or debated. And I think it's important for us to realize that at least here in Missouri with Amendment 3, it removes all protections for all reproductive health.
Pro-life advocates and legislators predict a groundswell in abortion rates if voters overturn bans in the 10 states with initiatives on the ballot.
This is it. I mean, if we can't protect life, I mean, that's the fundamental right that's enshrined in the Declaration. That's given by God himself. So if we can't get this right, what can we get right?
In Missouri, Paul Petit, CBN News.
A lot at stake in Missouri. Well, turning now to the Middle East, a new warning. Iran threatening to strike Israel in retaliation for the IDF's unprecedented attack on Iranian soil. At first, Tehran downplayed last week's airstrikes, and now the regime is threatening to respond.
You think you can change the story of domination of a great power called Islam by firing a few missiles? Once again, you made a mistake. You will taste the response, an unimaginable response.
The IDF strikes damaged Iran's air defense systems and killed 4 soldiers. It was in response to a massive Iranian missile attack against Israel on October 1st. According to reporting from Axios, Iran's retaliation is expected to be carried out from Iraq using a large number of drones and ballistic missiles. It's unclear if a potential strike would come before or after the U.S. election. Still, Israeli officials have warned they are willing to attack Iran even harder in return. Well, Michael Honan joins us now. He is a senior fellow and director of research and foreign policy at the Brookings Institution. Michael, welcome back. At first, Iran downplayed Israel's attack last week, and now it seems it's preparing a strike. What is behind this shift?
Yes, it's surprising to me, Tara, and I'm not sure I'm convinced by the Axios report that they're already preparing, a similar kind of attack to October 1st and April 13th, just this time from Iraq. That sounds a little too precise to be plausible to me. I think that Iran might be looking for asymmetrical ways to retaliate. There are a lot of things Iran could do, and a lot of things Iran's been doing through its proxies. A lot of missile attacks. Obviously, it helped enable October 7th last year. But it could try to assassinate Israeli politicians or military leaders. It could try to use covert means of one type or another to sabotage infrastructure inside of Israel. I feel like that's more likely than just one more round of missiles and drones. I could be wrong, but Israel's shown it's pretty good at dealing with the latter. At some point, it'll run out of interceptors. So it's true that if Iran were to do this 10 more times, they might outpace our ability collectively to help Israel defend itself. But I think the Iranians prefer to play the covert and indirect and proxy game rather than to go blow for blow in traditional military attacks with Israel.
Its response right now as it makes its calculations?
Well, Israel showed a lot of restraint in the last attack. And I think it's to our credit, partly, that we talked them out of escalating to attacks on oil, gas, or the nuclear infrastructure inside of Iran, but Israel, you can bet there were voices at the table that wanted to do that inside of Israel. And certainly that would have also advocated more comprehensive strikes on Iranian missile production facilities, for example. They've got our F-35 jet aircraft, which are very stealthy, and they did not lose any aircraft in this attack, even though they were going straight into the heart of the lion's den, so to speak, and attacking the surface-to-air radar and missile sites. So I think Israel has demonstrated it could do much of what it wished inside of Iranian airspace. And so if Iran does retaliate in any kind of meaningful way, and the threshold for that would have to be determined by Israel, then I think Israel will look to do something substantially more expansive than they did a few days ago. And there's no telling where this ends. Iran would be better off letting this thing lie. They already commit so many acts of violence against Israel through their proxies, which are unconscionable. The idea that they have to go head to head, tit for tat in these kind of, regional military strikes doesn't make any sense.
Right. And quickly, Michael, we've got a few seconds left. Could the U.S. election coming up on Tuesday be a factor in this response, do you think?
There's no telling. I mean, I'm guessing that Israel prefers, or that Prime Minister Netanyahu prefers that Donald Trump win, and that Iran prefers that Kamala Harris win. But I'm not sure either one sees the importance of who sits in the White House as being decisive. I think what's going on in the region is even more important than the American role. And moreover, I think that either Harris or Trump would have Israel's back when it comes down to the core issue of the state's survival and protection of its citizens. So I doubt that the U.S. election is anywhere near the top of people's minds, but it could be a secondary factor.
Michael Honan, thank you for your insight. As always, a lot to keep an eye on.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the latest jobs report is officially in. What it all means when Faith Nation returns. Welcome back. The Labor Department is out with its final economic report before Election Day, and it is not good. Employers added just 12,000 jobs last month. That is a major drop from 223,000 in September. Economists say back-to-back hurricanes and an ongoing strike at Boeing put a significant dent in those numbers. However, unemployment held at a steady 4.1% as expected. Well, for more on the economy, we are joined by Richard Stern, director of the Federal Budget Policy Center at the Heritage Foundation. Richard, thank you for being here. Today brought us the weakest jobs report since 2020. What do you make of that?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on to talk about it. Look, this is a dismal and disappointing job for all Americans. But, the truth is, it's at the end of a long line of dismal economic failures under the Biden-Harris administration. I mean, not just that there's only 12,000 jobs created, but most of that was because of government-created jobs on the backs of new inflationary dollars being printed. I think the real takeaway here is the private sector lost 28,000 jobs, and in fact, manufacturing lost 46,000 jobs. There's nothing to be happy about here.
What's your overall view of the economy at this point in time? Is it strengthening? Is it weakening? I think for the everyday person, it's tough to tell because all the prices are still really rough at the grocery store and other places.
Absolutely. I think it's weakening for sure. So, those higher prices are the result of years of damage done to the economy. I mean, for an average family of four, we're talking about more than $20,000 of lost purchasing power, just money that the government has lit a match to by wanton, reckless spending and money printing. And so if you look through across the entire economy, you see that the damage done by all of these regulations and taxes, like I said, money printing that creates inflation, has done damage to all of the engines of our economy. It's made it harder for businesses to invest, to replace the physical tools they use to produce goods and services, let alone to expand. So, in truth, over the entire Biden-Harris administration, we've seen every single new jobs report on average come out with 12 and a few thousand fewer jobs created. And of course, they've been downwardly revising every single jobs report, saying just in this one that 112,000 jobs they reported in September and August were actually just a farce, that they didn't exist at all. They were a rounding error. So, I think when you take in whole all of these things, I think the economy is clearly weakening. I think every American is feeling that, unfortunately, in their pocketbooks and when they go to buy food at the grocery store.
A big question, of course, is how will the Fed react to today's numbers? Do you believe this makes a bigger rate cut at their next meeting to help the economy in case it is slowing down, as you point out?
It certainly does help their argument for doing that. But I think the important thing here is that honestly, the rate cut is not the most important thing going on. So because the federal government is dumping $2 trillion of new debt, of deficits, every year into the economy, the government is taking scarce resources. That's money that could go to help homeowners buy a home or businesses expand and hire more people. And so honestly, the Fed is the getaway car driver to the federal deficit's heist. The Fed simply decides whether you feel that burden as inflation or you feel it as high interest rates. So the Fed is holding the wolf by the ears on this one. If they cut rates, then you're going to see more inflation. If they keep rates the same or raise them, you're just going to see higher interest rates that box the private sector out of being able to get financing for home or expand their business. That's really the truth of it. It's a tragic situation for everyone involved.
Richard, thank you. Some tough times. Appreciate your analysis as always.
Thank you so much.
Up next, unity through faith, the timely message one senator gave to America before his sudden death, right after this. Welcome back. Chicago police have filed terrorism and hate crime charges against a suspect accused of shooting a Jewish man in Chicago. Police say Saidi Mohammed Abdullahi shot the man while he was walking to synagogue last Saturday. Then 30 minutes later, the gunman allegedly opened fire on first responders at the scene. Police shot back, wounding that attacker. The victim survived the ordeal and is out of the hospital now. Police say they found evidence on the suspect's phone that he intentionally targeted Jews. Well, no matter who wins the upcoming presidential election, Americans will likely remain politically divided. Senator Joe Lieberman addressed that issue in what has turned out to be his final book. CBN's Gary Lane recently talked with his widow about her late husband's thoughts on unifying the nation through faith.
Hadassah Lieberman is on a mission: support Israel by visiting Jerusalem during a time of war. She is also committed to helping America overcome political division and social disunity. That's why Hadassah is also talking about the book by her late husband, former Senator Joe Lieberman. Just before he died last spring, Lieberman completed a draft of what would be his final book, Faith's Answers to America's Political Crisis: How Religion Can Help Us Out of the Mess We're In.
I remember coming into his study and saying, Joey, this is a beautiful legacy. It's so beautiful. It's so honest. It's so natural. Joe's dream was always to unify not only this bipartisan stuff that he was doing politically, which was very important to him, but also to have unity.
Fellow Democrats often felt Senator Lieberman didn't fit the party mold. After becoming the first Jewish vice presidential candidate running with Al Gore, he became an independent Democrat in 2008. That year, he also endorsed Republican John McCain for president over Barack Obama. But he often said it was more important to put the nation before party. I'm sure before he passed, he was displeased about the polarization of the country. So what were his thoughts?
One of the things he discusses in this book is how important it is for people of faith in particular to come together. They each have a creator and each worships in different ways, but we need to use what we're taught through creators and through speech. And we have to carefully use our faiths as a guide to better behavior.
Hadassah Freilich married Joe Lieberman in 1982. The daughter of Holocaust survivors, Hadassah was born in Prague, Czechoslovakia, and was named after her maternal grandmother, who was murdered at Auschwitz.
My father was in the work camp, slave labor work camp, where he was taken with many men. And my mother was in Auschwitz and Dachau.
Those experiences made the October 7th massacre even more painful. Occurring just 6 months before Lieberman's sudden passing, Hadassah recalls their shock of that attack, and then sadness over the subsequent anti-Semitism expressed on American college campuses.
He was very concerned and didn't want repeats from earlier moments in history, in the early parts of World War II, and how people were behaving to each other. But we had never thought we'd experience this in America, in the USA, the country that welcomed us and helped us be brave and strong, and helped me to be the wife of a senator from Connecticut.
Like her late husband Joe, an observant Jew, Hadassah, the daughter of a rabbi, believes Americans can overcome these troubling times by turning to God.
Life is complicated. And Hashem, God, we pray that He doesn't hide, that He's not blinded to all the suffering we've experienced. And we must stay strong.
And she believes educating younger generations of Americans is crucial to building a more tolerant and peaceful society.
And we have to have people talking to them, teaching them to work through to the positive, despite the animosity and anger in the world. We must believe that God will help us.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
Still ahead, a custody battle over a squirrel, that's right, is driving people nuts. Next on Faith Nation. All right, and finally tonight, a legal battle is ensuing in New York over custody of a squirrel. That's right, a squirrel. The squirrel, named Peanut, lived with his owner, Mark Longo, for 7 years before being seized by a conservation group. Longo runs Peanut's Freedom Farm and Animal Sanctuary from his New York home, and the pair have become a viral sensation, gaining millions of followers on social media. So now those followers are banding together to help bring Peanut back home, signing a petition and donating to a GoFundMe for legal fees. Longo is cooperating with the state to find common ground and continue caring for other animals in need. Well, I think the squirrel looked pretty darn happy to me. Anyway, that's going to do it for Faith Nation. See you Monday. I hope you have a great weekend.